over. Hi, I'm Kelsey with White Cottage Boutique. I'm going to be showing you today how to reupholster your chairs if you have, we're going to be working on the back section of the chair today. As you can see, we've already taken apart the chair, removed all the old upholstery, the seats, painted it, stained it, or glazed it, and put a top coat on it. So now we're just putting the new fabric on. This chair is getting reupholstered with this nice microfiber fabric that I bought from Fabric Guru, and I've already done my cording for the edges. As you can see, I have a tutorial on my website on how to do this, and I've cut out my pieces. So also this chair came with these pieces. So we've got the backboard, then we've got a small padding that goes on the back, and then the large padding that goes on the front. So if you can see all those, here's the large padding, the board, and the small padding. What you're going to need are some scissors. Then we're going to want some pliers, and this is optional. You can also use scissors for this, but a razor blade, if it's really sharp, is also real nice to have. Then if you can see it back there is my upholstery gun. It is a pneumatic gun, so it's connected to my compressor, which is out in the garage. So we're going to get started here. And I've got a camera on my head that is going to help you guys see kind of what I'm doing up close. First thing we're going to do is we're going to assemble the back padding. So here's the padding. This goes right on top like this. If you can see it, it kind of has an archway, so the arch needs to go in just like your chair would. Then I have a piece of fabric cut out for it. So the easiest way to do this is to lay your fabric out flat. And lay this down and try to just get it all even and give yourself, as you can see, I've cut the fabric to give myself maybe 2 or 3 inches all the way around, if you can see this. There you go. So that I have enough space to kind of work with as I'm doing it. So what we're going to do here, I'm going to move this forward, is I'm just going to kind of lift it up like this and then set it down inside the piece. And you're going to end up kind of working with it a little bit, but you just want to make sure that it's all nice and tight and flat. Pull out any sections that you feel like are not flattening out right. Okay. So once you feel kind of comfortable with how it looks, what I do is I flip it up to get a good look at the back to make sure that there's nothing that I feel like is really going to cause a problem. And it's not going to be all the way tight, so don't expect it to be. You just want to make sure that it's sitting right and there's no huge folds or anything like that or in the foam. So once you're kind of happy with it, the easiest thing is to lay it down, at least for the first couple staples. And then you're going to get your staple gun. You can do this without a pneumatic gun, but it's going to be a lot more difficult. So this gun I got on Amazon.com. The reason I like this gun is because, one, I can adjust the pressure, but the bigger thing for me is that it has a manual safety. So a lot of guns, especially the electric ones or the pneumatic ones, have a safety, if you can see that. It goes in when you push, so when you're pushing against something. So right now if I pull this trigger, nothing comes out. But it has a manual that I can pull right here so that I don't have to have this shoved up against something to shoot it in, which makes it really, really, really nice. So I always go in a square when I upholster anything. I start with the top, go to the bottom, then do the sides just to get it in the right position. and then I start kind of filling in the gaps from there. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna do the very top first. And as you can see that it kind of dips down right there. So I'm gonna pull up my safety so that I can just kind of hammer it in as close to this edge as I can get. And the reason for that is on the back, you only have so much space and you don't want it to be going through. On a chair seat, it's really not that big of a deal, but on something like this, having a manual safety is a pretty big deal. Then I'm going to do the bottom, but I'm going to pull this section taut. Not pulling with all my strength, but just making sure it's straight. And then I'm just going to do the center bottom. Then same thing with the sides. I'm just going to pull it kind of tight. Get as close in there as I can and staple. And that staple did not go in right. And I always have a habit of checking the back after I put in a staple to make sure it didn't go through. And you can just kind of remove it if for some reason you didn't get it close enough to the edge. So after I do my 4 staples, I'm going to pull it up again. I'm going to actually work on the rest of it like this, with it standing up for the most part, just so I can have a look at the back at the same time that I'm doing the front. So as you can see, I've got a lot of extra fabric, so I'm just going to kind of use that to pull as I straighten it out. And I'm going to start with the top, and I kind of just move sections the whole time, but as you can see, I'm kind of checking the back, and then I'm going through the front, getting as close to that upper edge as I can, and just stapling. And a big thing you want to do is smooth it out with your hand as you go. That's the easiest way to get the nicest finish, is to really just, instead of trying to pull, use your hand and just smooth it so that you don't get the ripples in it. I do want to say, if you are going to buy a staple gun, look for one that has the smallest space from where the staples come out to this flat edge, because that makes it real easy when you're trying to upholster things that are in tight corners. You can also get ones that have an adjustable nose that goes in and out. Those are really nice as well. But this one in particular was only, I think it was $30 on Amazon. And then it was about $10 for 500 staples. So it really wasn't too bad if you have a compressor that you can plug it into. I'll put the information of this gun in the link down at the bottom of the video if you are interested. Oh, and I am using 5/8 inch staples with a narrow crown, which is 3/8 inch, and it's 22 gauge staples. I like the thinner staples because they're a little bit easier when you're doing upholstery to work with. But that's just my preference. Now to get to the bottom, I do have to flip it on its back again. Now I've noticed that on these ones, it starts to pucker a little bit right here. Makes it a little hard to work with, so I'm just going to cut it around these edges here to make it a little easier for me to pull and work with. this one side left to do here. And it's also puckering right here, so I'm going to cut it just to make it a little bit easier. Should be good. As you can see, I kind of don't do them every centimeter like they do when you first start taking them apart. You might notice it's like they're all over the place. I really don't feel that's necessary if you're strategically placing your staples. You really shouldn't have a problem with the fabric staying. So I just want to show you what this looks like when we flip it up. So I just look in the back and make sure there's nothing that seems to be a problem to me. As you can see, there's a little staple here that popped through, and there's also a puckering right here that I want to fix. So what I'm going to do is grab my staple remover tools, which you've seen in my other videos, my pick and my hammer here, or my pliers, and I'm going to remove those staples that I felt like were a problem. This one is puckering, so I'm going to remove this one. Kind of relieved some of the puckering right there. I'm just going to use my hand to kind of smooth it out, and because I do want a staple there, I am going to re-staple it in. So and that makes it better. Then this last staple down here, that if you can see it, it's just kind of poking through right there a little bit. I don't want that. I'm going to remove it. And this staple gun puts them in there real deep, so. That's the back. And then in the next video I'm going to show you how to do the front. But right now, this is what it looks like. And what I am going to do with this is I am going to go around with my scissors and just clean it up a little bit. I don't want to go right next to the edge on the inside because it's a lot easier to fold over if you have a little bit of gap. So I'm only going to be doing about this much off just to kind of clean it up. So I'm not working with a ton of fabric and there's not a lot of bulk. I just try to make it a little easier. And then in the next video I'll show you how to do the front.